Welcome back to the Dream Hub podcast, where we explore the mysterious, beautiful, and often mind-blowing world of dreams. I'm your host, Melissa, and today I have the absolute pleasure of speaking with someone who's not just a fellow dream explorer, but a storyteller, a cultural bridge, and a passionate voice in the dream community. Joining me is Hawa Bah, the creator of It's Just a Dream podcast, where she shares her wildest, scariest, and most intense dreams in a beautifully immersive storytelling format. She blends science, spirituality, and the deep-rooted wisdom of her Gambian and Fulani heritage to explore the power of the subconscious. And Hawa has been a listener to Dream Hub since 2022. So this is like a full circle moment as we finally get to have this conversation. And today we'll be diving into the unique ways that we experience our dream worlds, the diversity or lack thereof within the dreaming community, and the power of cultural perspectives in shaping how we interpret symbols and messages from the dream world. Hawa, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to Dream Hub.
Thank you. Hi. Oh my gosh, this is so surreal. I'm just like
I
so
love the
excited.
energy. So you have such a unique way of sharing your dreams. You literally like bring them to life through your storytelling. And I'm curious, what inspired you to start It's Just a Dream podcast?
Originally, It's Just a Dream podcast was because me and my friend during the pandemic, um, obviously everything was shut down and I was still in college. And me and my friend would call each other all the freaking time. And we would just share our dreams with each other. And we both realized we had very intense storytelling dreams. And so we used to just share each other, like before we shared dreams, we just share the plot of TV shows to each other. And I would be like, oh my God, there's this TV show. Can you go watch it? And then like explain it to me. And so she would do that, and I would do that to other stuff. And then eventually we moved on to our dreams, and it was like a form of escapism for the both of us to just like escape COVID and all of the horrible stuff that happened in 2020 and just listen to each other's dreams. And she had like amazing plots for her dreams that had me like pooped and gagged, and we would call each other every night. And I'm like, okay, part two of this dream. I need to hear what happens. I remember specifically she had this one dream that we called the soulmate dream, where in the dream she died and went to heaven and met this faceless angel named Al, who was like, hey, we're going to give you a second chance at life. Tomorrow you're going to meet three people. One of them is your soulmate. And you have 100 days to make that person fall in love with you. Otherwise, you will both die. And like that was the premise of her dream, and she like shared it within like a week. And so every night I'd call her and be like, oh my God, tell me about this dream, get the part two, I need to know what happened, who's your soulmate. It was like so good, and it had so many like plot twists and turns and everything. And my friend Elle, it was originally her idea to start the podcast because we would share so many dreams, and she's like, oh my God, a podcast would be amazing. And so we started the podcast together. She's in the first three episodes, but she decided to leave the podcast because she realized sharing dreams were so intimate. And it's like one thing to share a dream with your best friend, it's another thing to share it with like the entire internet. So she was like, oh, I kind of actually don't want to do this. And I was like, that's fine. I'll continue the podcast. But we still are best friends. There's no like beef or anything like that. She always gets my dreams first. She's like the very first person that I tell my dreams to. And yeah,
What a
that's the
good
little story.
friendship. That's
Yeah.
awesome. And yeah, I understand they are very personal. Like my listeners and people that come to my dream circles are like, share some of your dreams. And I really want to. But a lot of them, you're like, oh. Some people say it's kind of like worse than being naked in public because you really are like bearing your soul. But I mean, I think that's like the power behind them, right? And we are all humans, so it is helpful if you are brave enough like yourself to be able to share them.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you remember the first dream that really made you stop and think like, wow, there's something powerful happening here?
Honestly, I didn't realize my dreams were different until we started making the podcast. And that's when we came to the realization that other people don't dream the way that we dream. because I've always had a very storytelling, hyper vivid dreams like that. It's like my entire life has always been like that. So it wasn't until honestly I started listening to The Young and the Restless where I was like, oh, people don't dream like this.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't normal. And I remember listening to, I absolutely love their podcast. And I remember listening to like specifically one of Zach's like jerking off dreams, and I was like, oh, oh, okay, that's what people are dreaming about. That's like the norm. Okay, I didn't realize.
Yes. Yeah, when I heard your dreams on your podcast, I'm just like, wow. Like, I'll only have dreams as long and as vivid and like story like as yours when I've done a mushroom trip.
Yeah, that's
So I love that you have so many of them and that that's kind of just the normal. Do you have a dream that you'd like to share with my listeners so that they can get some kind of an idea of what we're talking about?
I think the dream that I was planning to share is the dream that got us connected because I
Yeah,
posted a reel about it and you commented under it saying that like you felt like it needed your guidance. And so we talked a little bit about that dream. So I thought it would be fun to share more of it, the entire thing in detail and like get your
perfect.
insight on it because yeah, it's a crazy dream.
Yeah, I'd love that. Does it have a title?
Um, I called the dream The Devil Within. And I shared it on my podcast. I think it's episode 36. If I can't have you, I'll become you. Let me crawl into your skin. Because I was like, that quote perfectly describes this dream. So yeah.
Excellent. Let's get comfy.
Okay, perfect. So this dream, I think if I remember correctly, without looking at my dream journal and everything, I had this dream like around the beginning of I want to say like January, February, around that time. And in this dream, basically, it's just me living my normal everyday life with my partner in the dream. And his name is Jasper. And so I was living my normal everyday life with my partner, and I'd go to work, and after work, I'd hang out with him and my friends, and life was just really good. And we had an apartment, and we were like disgustingly cute together. It was just like everything I've ever wanted. Um, and then I started to notice that I had weird memory gaps throughout the day. So like I would remember going to work, but I wouldn't actually remember what I did at work. Which is really strange for me because in waking life I have a really good memory. Hence the whole podcast. I wouldn't be able to have the podcast that I do if I didn't remember my dreams in such vivid detail. But I noticed that my memory was dropping and it was really weird. And sometimes I would forget what my partner was saying to me. So one day he brought up the fact that he wanted mac and cheese for dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, you want mac and cheese for dinner? And he's like, no, I never said that. I said I wanted a surf and turf. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. My bad. I wasn't listening. Okay, you want a surf and turf? Then we have to go to the store before it closes. And he's like, why would I say I want a surf and turf? I don't want that for dinner. I want this for dinner instead. And I'm like, okay, so you literally didn't say that. You said this. And he's like, oh my God, babe, I'm allergic to seafood. Why would you say that? And then the next day would come around and I'd be like, oh, you did you enjoy the dinner that we had? And he's like, yeah, I love the fact that we had ice cream for dinner. Oh my God, we're so naughty. And I was like, did we didn't do that. We didn't have ice cream. And he's like, what are you talking about? Of course we had ice cream, you know? And so I'd be like, okay, that's really weird. And it just kept dropping and dropping more and more. There was also a moment in the dream where my friend asked to borrow a like bright orange sequins dress. And I was like, oh, I mean, sure, I don't think I have something like that in my closet, but I can get that for you. And then I went home to get the said sequence dress. And then I realized I never owned a sequence dress like that. And so I went back to the friend and was like, hey, I actually don't have that dress. And she's like, what are you talking about? You gave it to me yesterday. We went to that party. Remember? We did this, that, and the third, and then we did this, and then you did this, and you said this, and oh my God, you were so crazy at this party. And I was like, I don't remember any of that. That never happened. And then she showed me a photo of her wearing that dress. And I was like, okay, well, clearly you have a photo of you in the dress. Okay, this is weird. And it kept getting worse and worse. And at one point, people kept complimenting me for my bright blue hair. And they're like, oh my God, your bright blue hair, it suits you. I love this color on you, girl. It's so pretty. But I didn't have bright blue hair. I have the current hairstyle that I have now. For listeners, it's like half ginger, and then there's like a top skunk section that's blonde. That's the hairstyle that I had in the dream. But everyone was saying, you have bright blue hair, you have bright blue hair, and it's so pretty. And it wasn't just like my partner or my friends, it was also strangers, like random people would just come up to me. And obviously I could think that maybe like my friends would be lying to me or my partner as like a prank, but strangers, no. And it started to drive me crazy because I would be at work and I'd be playing with my hair and I'd accidentally pull out a strand and I'd look down at the strand and it would be bright blue. But when I looked in the mirror, it wasn't bright blue. And I would be cleaning the bathroom and cleaning the drains and I would see clunks of like bright blue hair. But I was like, I don't have bright blue hair. I can see in the mirror I don't have bright blue hair. Um, and I just kept spiraling in the dream, like freaking out. And the breaking point in the dream was the fact that I'm deathly allergic to mint ice cream. And so me and my partner go to a ice cream parlor and he surprises me with like a big batch of mint green ice cream and I crash out. I completely crash out and I'm like, you shark, you piece of shit, you're cheating on me with a girl with bright blue hair. Like, I know you're cheating on me. It's all your fault. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, the girl with bright blue hair that I'm dating is you. And I'm like, you're lying. I've never eaten mint chocolate chip ice cream. What kind of boyfriend doesn't know? Like, you're the worst. And he pulls out a picture of me, like, from a few days ago, eating mint ice cream with bright blue hair. And I crash out. I completely crash out. I like run to our house and I'm like ripping the trashes to look for proof that I don't have bright blue hair and I don't eat mint and I don't like mint chocolate anything. But all the proof is there that I do like it and everything is there. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Oh my God. And so eventually we decide as a couple to go to couples therapy. We decide that I'll do individual therapy. I start going to like a priest and a shaman and an imam and just like any religious leader, spiritual leader. I try to go to any of them to get any help. But the thing is, my memory keeps lapping so much that I can't even remember meeting them. And I can't even remember setting up these meetings. I'm like losing months of like time and I'm like freaking out. And eventually we go see like a medium. Yeah, I think it was a medium. We went to go see a medium, and this medium reveals that I'm not crazy. Like what's going on is happening. The issue is that there's another spirit that's like connected to my soul. Like there's a second human soul that's connected to my soul. And we're fused together. And so anytime I black out, it's literally that second human soul that's like coming and taking control of everything. And I need to do something about it soon because eventually it's gonna turn into like the Get Out movie, and I'm just gonna be in the sunken place while this new soul like takes over my life. So we decide that we should do a ritual to separate me from this like parasite. And um I was told like flat out that the ritual is the only way to stop it, but I shouldn't do the ritual because the parasite always wins. And that there's no way for me to win against the parasite. And if the parasite throws me out of my body, I won't like just become a walking spirit. I'm not going to become a ghost. I will literally burn out of existence and never exist. Um, and so we try a bunch of like methods that don't work. And so I get fed up and I decide to finally do the ritual. And I managed to throw the parasite out, only to realize that the parasite that I threw out wasn't the parasite. It was the original owner of the body, and I was the parasite the entire time. It was me. And when I like looked back about like my life and everything, I realized that my partner Jasper never called me by my name. Like he would always call me like honey, baby, da da da. But during the ritual, he called out a name that wasn't my name. It was the actual woman's name. Um, and I threw her out of her body and she like died. And then I just like lived her life. Like the dream kept going for like months of me just continuing to live her life and like slowly getting rid of any trace of her until she was just gone. Um, yeah, and that's the dream. It's one of my many crazy dreams.
The plot twist at the end is so good.
And I remember waking up being like, oh my God, why did I do that? I'm such a horrible person. I would never. But like that dream Hawa, like the moment she like realized that she was the parasite, she like switched. And she was like, no, I'm like so right into doing this. And actually, she deserves to die. And actually, because of this, that, and the third. And I was like, oh my God, I would never do this. But yeah, that's one of my many crazy dreams that I have.
What did it feel like to live the life of someone else in their body?
I think, because this isn't the first time I had a dream like this. I think this is like the second time. But in this dream, what was eerie was that I didn't realize I was living her life because I thought it was my life. Um, and then afterwards, when it was like revealed that like we were two souls that were fused together, and it was revealed that we were fused since birth. So I was always just in the background watching her. Um, and in the dream, I was like so angry that I didn't get to live her life, that I had to watch her live her life. And I wanted her life so bad. And I was like, even like taunting her as I was like throwing her out of her body. Oh my God, that's so horrible. But I was like taunting her and being like, your boyfriend doesn't even realize that like I'm you. He prefers me over you. Like he's not, no one's gonna miss you. Like it's just gonna be me. Uh, um, and so like in that dream, I was like super happy that I was living her life and like slowly like destroying everything that made her her. Again, so wicked, so evil. I was the bad guy in that dream.
It's
100.
not it's not fully wicked or evil. Like I know it might feel or sound that way, but like if you think of it in a few different perspectives, I don't know. Before I go and jump into that, let me ask you this. So, we had a bit of a conversation around this dream, but like, what do you take from it? Or what was your idea of the message within this dream?
I took it as I need to just live my life to the fullest, to the way I want to. Because I always have the issue of like, because of the culture that I grew up in and how they're like respect your elders, respect your parents, and you should do exactly what they want, especially as like a woman, or someone born assigned female at birth. Like there's this expectation that like your job is to please, and that's literally it. And just be molded into what they want. And so that's something I've been struggling with as I've been getting older and really unpacking that and what that means. And I feel like that dream is like a warning of like if you just do what they want and live the life that they want and don't live your life, you're gonna be full of resent. And it's gonna come out in that like very angry, vicious way where you're gonna take it out on this other person, whoever that other person might be, who doesn't deserve it. Maybe my future children or anything like that. And so I need to be authentic and truly myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I love how you describe that because, yeah, I was thinking it's sort of like, all I can imagine of like living in someone else's body was kind of like, if you borrow someone else's car, that kind of a feeling.
Yeah.
But the way that you were describing it all at the end of it, it felt very much like sort of a battle between your authentic self and then like the puppet version of you that has been raised by family. And I think we all have that within us, right? We all have these two sides of like, oh, I need to fit in and I need to people please and I'm doing what I'm told and all of that. And then your authenticity is behind watching, going, but I don't really want to do that. Like these are the things I want to do. So it sounds like a very empowering dream in the way that it would have shifted some of your behaviors moving forward.
Yeah, I think it was like a very good like warning. And
Yeah.
also it would be a very good like plot to a TV show, I will say.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. So you mentioned about growing up, and I'm wondering how has your heritage influenced the way that you understand and interpret dreams? Like, are there any cultural dream practices or beliefs that have been passed down to you?
Yeah, so I grew up with like dream interpretation always being like a really big thing to the point where when I found out that like again similar to like when I found out people don't have dreams like I do, it really shocked me, especially because a lot of my friends like some of my best friends are Hmong and dream interpretation is a really big thing as well. And so we would always bond on the fact of like our parents interpreting our dreams or like using dreams as an excuse to like not let us hang out with our friends. Um, and so it's always been a really big thing. A lot of people take dreams as like their connection to God, like their one straight connection to God, and that God is speaking to them through their dreams. Sometimes it's a connection to the spiritual world at large, and what certain symbols mean and represent are like a lot more complex. So like one symbol that always comes up in dreams that I feel like is very common is like killing someone in your dream or like having someone kill you. And anytime I would tell my mom about a dream where like I was killed or like she killed me, she'd be like, "Oh my God, that's an amazing dream. That's so good. I'm really happy that you had that dream." And I'd be like, "What? You murdered me in my dream and I'm actually very upset with you." She's like, "No, no, no. That's a good thing. If you have a dream about someone killing you, it means that the opposite will happen in waking life. You'll actually be a lot closer. Your friendship and your relationship with that person is actually going to deepen. So it's so good that you had a dream like that." And things like that. Also, the way like colors appear in dreams also meant a lot. So like the color white and gold, I feel like those appear a lot more in my dreams because of the culture that I grew up in. Yellow as well, because that's like just the colors that we wear. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love that how your mom looks at it like that. And I know whenever I see gold in my dream, it's like a really good sign. Like that's really
Yeah.
positive if something's gold. Like, oh, that was a gold car. I'm like, oh, excellent. Like, that's great. So you've noticed a lack of diversity in the larger dream conversation, despite so many Indigenous, African, and Southeast Asian cultures having deep spiritual traditions around dreaming. Why do you think that these voices are less heard?
I don't know. I'm actually curious on what you think about that. Because I just noticed that there's so much about dreaming and spirituality that goes in hand. And I feel like a lot of cultures, like myself and the culture I grew up in, and like I mentioned, my friends who are Hmong have very spiritual backgrounds when it comes to dreaming. It's like the default on how to analyze dreams. So I find it so interesting that like I think one creator that I know you collabed with, Amina from the Dream World. I think her and one other creator are like two creators that I found that are like people of color, but I haven't been able to find any other podcasts with like a host that is non-white who comes from like a cultural background with that level of like, significance that talks about dreams. So I was wondering, since like you are a professional and this is like your day in, day out, your bread and butter, like do you see more people of color in the dreaming world?
No, I agree with you. And I was really wanting to speak to some Aboriginal dreamers because, my teacher was American and I'm in this class on Zoom with all these Americans and they're talking about how in Australia it's the biggest dreaming culture. And I'm thinking, well, I know a lot of Aboriginal people and none of them speak about dreams. And I put out a thing on Facebook to all my friends. I was like really trying to talk to the community because I wanted to speak to some elders about the way that they view dreams. And it was like crickets. It was like so hard to find someone who wanted to talk about it. And from what I found from the few breadcrumbs that I got was that it's a lot of the elders, so like our grandparents and the generation above that really, had it as their way of life, their way of being was dreaming, right? And so I feel like it's gotten a bit lost over the generations. And then also the other impact that I've found is social media is a great way. and the internet is a great way for us to all share and spread the word about things. But those older generations don't really come on podcasts, so they don't make reels on Instagram and stuff like that. And so I find that that's where there's a bit of a gap going on. But I'm really interested to speak to more cultures around, what their spiritual traditions are around dreaming. We have been invited to go out to an Indigenous cult community soon. So hopefully I'll be able to bring something back. But I'm not able to say how Australian Aboriginals, they may have a whole different idea of what it is compared to Africans or Asian cultures. So yeah, it's just interesting. I think also the other part of it is that, like Freud was very famous for bringing dreams into modern cultures with, his philosophies, and it's all very psychological based. So then there's just a lot of like white doctors who are interested in it. So they're like, oh, we can intellectualize this. Whereas I think that the other cultures, it's more of a spiritual thing. It's more of like a way of living, a way of being. And, it may be different even just for different families as to how they view their dreams.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think it has, and I'm not an expert. Disclaimer, I am not an expert. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Because I know, like, for example, I liked using Freud and Carl Jung, but I also use them knowing that they viewed people of my skin tone as inferior and people who view dreams in a more spiritual light as inferior and like idiots. And because of that, the symbols that they do analyze are very like based in that. And so I have to take some of that with a grain of salt. Like when I'm using Dream Bible, of course, if I look up the color black, everything about black is like negative and awful and horrible and terrible. And da, 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 da. Like there's not a positive thing when it comes to black versus like white. And it's like, I see you. I know what you're doing, sir. I also think there might be gatekeeping with older cultures as well with people because they probably had to live through watching colonization happen, watching people being forced to like assimilate and like forcibly lose their culture, which is very sad. I know, like, as someone who has like a direct connection, like, despite me having a direct connection to my culture, I am someone who was born and raised in the States. So there is a slight disconnect. And I know other people who are like first generation who are were forced to basically assimilate and abandon their culture in order to fit in. And then because of that, they don't get to know like the stuff from the elders because they had to assimilate. They had no choice. And they're often like ridiculed for assimilating, which is a very sad situation to be in. And it's not really fair, but that's just how the world is right now. So I think that can also be a thing, like gatekeeping to also protect the culture to make sure people don't try to like exploit it. Because I'm like thinking about like Roma and the Romani people and how exploited they were throughout the years to the point where now they even gatekeep their own language because they're so afraid of having outsiders in that they're gonna like try to like exploit them or just make them look bad or like destroy them further. So it's like probably like a safety mechanism for them as well, which is again really sad because I feel like there's so all of these cultures are so beautiful and the way they analyze dreams because dreams are so beautiful. There are like just certain parts where like intellectualism isn't going to like get into like the nooks and crannies of it. And there are like some parts of dreams that I feel that can't be explored that are supposed to be unknown. And like I'm okay with it. I feel like that's what makes it beautiful. That there's some mystery to it. And there are just things that we're just not meant to know, which I really love. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those were all really good points. That was something that I did get to speak to an Aboriginal Indigenous woman about dreams, and she said that a lot of it did also get lost because of the stolen generation. Like, they couldn't
Yeah.
speak to their parents about it, so it's just like poof. But you were just saying mysterious, and then That made me think because I just want to bring this up because I felt sad when you think that black is all negative because I know that there are a few positive associations to black. So let me share it with you. And mystery and intrigue is one of them because hues of black absorb light, so it's naturally associated with the unseen and unexplored, which can evoke a sense of curiosity, hidden potential, or the vastness of space, which I think is beautiful. And then if you think about this, elegance and sophistication. Black is frequently used in high-end products, creating a perception of value, rarity, and sophistication. So, like from designer handbags to those limited edition black credit cards, and the color black signifies something special, like, like a sporty black car type of a thing. And then the other
Yeah.
one is power and authority. So, it's often linked to authority, seriousness, and control. So think of like a powerful black suit. It can project the essence of success and accomplishment.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there are a lot, like, that's why you can't focus on like one source to analyze your dreams.
Exactly. When you said Dream Dictionary, I was like, "Bow, bow, there's a downfall." No. I do
Yeah, because
like the
like
Dream Dictionaries, but only as a very last resort.
yeah, I use that as like the last thing because they're nice to have, but also I can sense the like bias in it.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, you can kind of tell who's written it and what they think. It's can be closed-minded at
Yeah.
times.
And you're like,
And
ooh.
yeah, exactly. That's definitely not what it meant in my dream. Have you come across any symbols or dream themes that are commonly misinterpreted because they don't take cultural context into account?
Yeah, I've noticed that another thing that's when it comes to like not a lot of podcasts with like people of color is like symbols that would show up in dreams that would be like very general would mean very differently for like for example, I'm black. If you guys don't know, I am black. Um but symbols of like authority figures and how those can be analyzed might mean something different to a black person who's dealing with police brutality than it would to someone else, right? But like those intricacies are not going to be analyzed, they're going to be completely generalized to the point where it's like there's like nothing there. Also I noticed snakes and alligators are always seen as like a negative thing, but someone who grew up in a culture where like alligators and crocodiles are seen as a very positive thing, it's so weird to like see it as a negative symbol, being like, oh, that's interesting. Also, just like colors, like the color red is always seen as very negative, but I would think someone of Chinese descent might not see that red as like a negative color because I'm thinking of like Chinese New Year's and all of that and how red plays such a big role. Like they probably wouldn't view red as this like bad thing, a bad omen in a dream, you know?
So I'm
Um,
curious, I just want to rewind a tiny bit. What do alligators and crocodiles mean to you?
so like I've always been told that when you have dreams about alligators, it means you're expecting. It means you're having a
Oh.
right? Like that's like and it's like a really good thing. And also like alligators are like these predators that are in the water, right? And usually they won't attack unless like provoked, right? So like if you go up to an alligator and you start whacking it, it's gonna bite you. Um and it's also just doing what its nature is. Like it's in the water waiting for prey to come. So if you come into its territory, it's going to attack you. It's very territorial because it's very protective of its home and its young ones. So it's a very good thing to have in your dreams to show that like you're a very protective person, right? That you will put yourself in harm's way to protect your home, your territory, your young ones. But I never see that in like
That's really
Freud and
beautiful.
yeah. I feel like there's like a lot of symbols where it's like specifically they show up a lot in like people of color's dreams. And then because of that, if you look them up on like Dream Bible or through Freud, they kind of like by default get like a negative connotation, which is like,
Mhm.
again, you're not being slick, sir. I see you. I see what you're doing.
Yeah, that's cool. I've had a few dreams recently that had crocodiles in them. And I was trying to figure it out. And I was just doing the whole like, well, how does it make me feel? What do I think that they are to me? What are my memories of them and stuff? And I was thinking like they're snappy,
Yeah.
dangerous, blah, blah, blah. But now that you're saying that, everything that you just described then really resonated with me. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's made me think a lot deeper. I wish that we could combine like all of the different cultures and all of the different dream diaries all together into one huge one. So it's like alligators, and then it could list like 10 different things.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be a lot of work, but I feel like it'd be so helpful.
Yeah.
And I feel like you'd also see the connections because one thing that I always find so interesting is that when you look at all of these different cultures, you can see connections. Like, I feel like every culture growing up, regardless if you're like Southeast Asian, African, or if you're from the States, there's like a boogeyman that like your mom would tell you about and be like, "Oh, don't do that, otherwise this boogeyman's gonna get you." And every culture has a version of that boogeyman. And I feel like there's so many like mythical creatures in every culture that if we really looked into it, we'd all see like the connections.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are all human. We are all one. It's
Yeah.
interesting because like I don't know. I guess I'm like growing up in more of a modern culture. Luckily I really don't see at all why people like I get the history of what's happened, right? But for me, when I have people of color in my dreams, they are always like the best thing, the best part of the dream. They always come as like a guide or someone really wise that I really admire, and they come with like this crazy deep wisdom. And I think I'm actually quite jealous of people of color and how much like deep rooted spirituality they have and like wisdom. I feel like we're a little bit dumb and like on the surface, sort of. So yeah, I
I don't
get
think
really
we're
excited
dumb.
when I have someone like that in my dreams.
I think it's so cool. I also just like I think it's just like from back in that time where they're trying to like use like eugenics to be like these people are like a different species, we have to look down on them. But I feel like when it comes to dreaming specifically, when you look at these older cultures and what they were talking about, a lot of times when the professionals who are like very science-based gets to those things about like astral projection and stuff, like these cultures predicted it like millions of years ago. And all we had to do is like listen to them and just let them talk. But I think that's also another reason why maybe their voices aren't heard because I know a lot of people will demonize those cultures, especially if they're coming from a very like religious place. And I think religion and dreaming and spirituality can go all together. But I feel like some people feel like they're like at war with each other. Because I remember there was one creator, not naming names, who was very spiritual. But in the same breath where she would talk about spirituality and dreams, she would also demonize African culture specifically. Um, and say like this is very demonic and like all of these different symbols and stuff are demonic and stuff. And I'm like, that's so weird to say, especially because this creator was also black. So I was like, this is such a weird thing to say.
That's really interesting. I'm part of a Facebook group about dreams. I'm not going to say what it is, but there are a lot of people of color in it. I think it's like mostly based in Africa. And it's very interesting. Like, they'll be like, oh, I dreamed of this is just random. They'll be like, oh, I dreamed of a mango. What is it? And people are like, oh, you're cursed. And they have all of these, like, oh, the demon is inside of you. And like all these really random comments on the things. And they're just like really fear based. And I'm like, hang on, everybody. What is happening here? I don't know why
Yeah,
people
it's
are
so
so like
weird.
scared of things or be like, oh, that's a terrible omen, or you're going to hell about something so random. I don't know.
It's like I don't think it's that. I don't think you dreaming of a mango is gonna mean you're going to hell for damnation. Like I feel like it's really
Yeah.
not that deep. But I've noticed that specifically with African spirituality, it's often commercialized and then demonized. So like Africans are like demonized for practicing it, but then a lot of non people of color are often like the figureheads for African spirituality. And it's like okay for them to do it because it looks nice when they do it. Which I think is just weird because why don't you want it from the source, number one?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like people just are forgetting the history. which is also very sad. Like before spiritualism was like a form of like escapism, right? For a lot of people of color, it is a form of escapism from the horrors of their lives and what they're dealing with. But before it was that, it was a place of joy and like happiness and like a way to feel closer to the earth and the ground before that was taken away from them. And I feel like people are often forgetting that part of it because they're so focused on this part and also just like demonizing it in favor of religion, which is like you don't need to do that. We can
Yeah,
both
it's all
exist.
one. Yeah.
You can see in religion and spirituality when they where they both intersect like perfectly. Like I think an example is like in Islam, there's a thing where like, if you want to compliment someone, you always want to say in Allah's image, like, oh, you're so pretty in Allah's image, da 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 da. And they do it because they don't want to put evil eye on you. And that's the same thing with evil eye, making sure you have that carving with you at all time and like the necklace and everything because you don't want to put evil eye on someone. It's literally the same thing. It's just in two different places. And it's like so many religions and cultures like intersect that way, but people don't want to see the intersection. It's like, why? It's right there.
Yes. I thought it was interesting earlier you were talking about astral projection and how you felt like there was kind of this war going on. And it's that also sparked my interest because I've read a CIA document from, I think it was the American Army, where they were teaching people to astral project, or they were using astral projection as a way of being able to go and see what the enemy were doing, as a way to like
Mhm.
either gain information or protect themselves. So I'm also wondering, like, maybe this could be a reason why cultures have sort of like protected sharing the information about their dreams.
I think so too. I feel like oftentimes it kind of reminds me of obviously like the movie's not real, but like Black Panther and like Wakanda when they had like vibranium and they like purposely didn't share it with the rest of the world because they're like, oh, we know you're gonna use it for something bad. You're gonna use it for warfare and all this horrible stuff. You're not gonna use it for the beauty that it's supposed to be used for. And then in the second movie, that's literally what it happens. Like they get access to it, and then all of a sudden they're trying to make nuclear warheads and everything like that. And they're like, okay, we literally told you this is why we didn't want to share it with you. Which again is so sad that we're not able to just share the beauty of dreams and sleep with each other without the fear of that being used to hurt us, you know? It's just so
Mm.
sad. Especially because I
Oh.
feel like I've been the happiest when I'm listening to like dream podcasts and listening to other people's dreams experiences. And even now, us having this conversation, it's so fun. It's like people are so like, I don't know, you know?
Overthink it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dreams have like pulled me out of my deepest depression. Like honestly, dreams are what saved my life. So it is really beautiful to share. And yeah, there can be some negative things that go on there, but overall, it's all for like a greater purpose and for deeper healing and for us to look at things from different perspectives and be grateful for what we have and change what we don't like. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like one thing I really loved about having the podcast and everything is that falling back in love with like the escapism dreams can offer you. Because obviously you can abuse escapism and it can be really bad, but if you allow yourself to really explore the dreamverse, and for me, like exploring the storytelling and just like the plots and how intricate and insane they can be, it's so fun. Like I get excited to go to sleep because I'm like, oh, what kind of dream am I gonna have today? Is it gonna be a mermaid dream? Am I gonna be a CIA agent? Like, what's gonna happen? And that's like so fun. It like I don't know, it feels like it heals your inner child a little bit. Like feels like you're just like playing make believe, but like in your dreams, kind of.
Yeah, but then also you're surprised by what comes out, so that's cool. Do you
Yeah.
use besides like open-ended things like you just said, like, oh, I wonder what I'm gonna have tonight. Do you ever use like dream incubation or setting intentions to gain an outcome from your dreams?
I've tried, they've never worked. Notice that my subconscious doesn't like when I tell her what to do. She's not okay with that and she gets very mad. So I just kind of let her do her thing, and let her explain the lessons how she wants them because she's very hostile when I'm like getting into her turf and being like, I want to dream about this. I want this. And she'll be like, no, you're not gonna have that. Yeah.
This is true. I've heard you explaining like how hectic some of your dreams are in the way that your subconscious tries to communicate to you. Like it's not usually just like plain and nice. It's like a punch in the face. Do you have a kind of explain what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so I've just been learning that my subconscious is very like particular on how she wants to deliver her message. She's not very friendly. It's giving older sister tough love kind of energy, if I'm honest. And when I was younger, I think it was a lot worse because when I was younger, I would be able to catch on my dreams a lot easier, and become lucid. Because I usually never become lucid. I don't want to become lucid. I'm not trying to learn. Every time I become lucid, it's completely on accident. It's just because I caught on. And she gets really mad when I catch on when when I become lucid in a dream. She'll like kill me straight out, like murder me. Um, and it's always in like the worst way possible. I was disemboweled once in a dream, and I was like, okay, I got it. I know my lane. I won't try to do things. I've also recently had this new experience where she will let me think that I've become lucid and I'm controlling the dream. And then she'll be like, no, you don't have any control here. And like, know your place. And then she'll kill me. Um, so she's gotten a little more sassy. And again, I know my place now. I've decided not to control my dreams at all and just let her take the wheel. Um, and I've noticed that now when I as an adult, my dreams are so vivid to the point where sometimes I don't even think I'm sleeping until I wake up. And I think it's on purpose because she knows that I'll catch on because my ADHD is so bad that like I will catch on if like one detail is wrong. So now like they're super detailed and super like um vivid to the point like if I touch a hot mug, I'll go because it's like hot. Um and yeah.
Wow. I'm loving like I've just realized the link. I don't know if this is why, but your subconscious is killing you when you realize you're in a dream. So you get lucid and then all of a sudden you get murdered and you die. But at the beginning of the podcast, you were telling me how your mom tells you that when you die in a dream, this is such a good dream.
Yeah.
This is amazing. So I wonder if she's done that to you because I know that they're belief based, right? Like what we believe is what's going to happen. So if you believe that dying in a dream is a good thing, maybe your dreams are just trying to give you what you believe in or what you you think is
Yeah, then
good.
I need to fix that immediately because I'm kind of sick of it. I'm kind of
Okay,
over it.
so let me try to help you then. So instead of trying to control the dream, like if I were you when I'm going to bed, I would be like, okay, I'm going to get lucid in a dream tonight because I want to hear what you have to tell me. Like, why are you killing me? Or why are you stopping me from having control? Like, I want to know, I want to hear you and be like, like when you sit down to have a conversation with someone and you're like, I'm just here to listen. Like, I want you to tell me what's going on for you. Try and have that conversation with your dreaming self and see.
I actually for my scary story showdown with the Young and the Restless, I shared a dream similar to that. It did not work. Um, where I had a dream and it was basically like there was this like reoccurring monster in my dream that like really freaks me out. And I hate looking at this monster, so I like will always try to shut my eyes and not look at this monster. And at one point, I was like on the ground and the monster was asking me to open my eyes and look at them, and I became lucid. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna open my eyes and I'm going to oblige, and I'm gonna open my eyes and I'm gonna ask this monster why they're doing this. And then my subconscious physically glued my eyes shut, so I wasn't able to open them. And I was like, and then I proceeded to be murdered very brutally afterwards. And I was like, okay, so I feel like you're doing this to just tease me at this point. Like, is this a game? Are you having fun?
Interesting. I
Yeah.
also feel like possibly because this has happened so many times in a row, it's now a belief that you have. Like you believe that when you get lucid, you're going to die and it's going to be brutal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what if you tried to change your expectations around it and just
I definitely
believed that it won't be like, nah, we're done with that phase of our lives now. Like, now I understand. I thought that being killed in a dream was a positive thing. We're going to flip the script now. Like, we're done with that. From now on in, when I get lucid, my subconscious is going to want to talk to me like I'm an angel and be beautiful and share the stories. I don't know.
yeah. I think I should try that. You know,
I
I
think so.
that's actually reminds me I wanted to ask you about this because one thing that I've noticed with my dreams is the fact that I feel pain in my dreams. So, I feel like basically every sensation. Um, as I mentioned, my dreams are very vivid. So like my reality is when I dream, that's how I view my reality. So like I have very bad vision. I wear glasses and my vision's a -8. And in my dreams, my vision is also -8. Which sucks because I heard Olivia talking about how in her dreams, her vision is like better. And I'm like, that's so cool. I wish I had that. And I feel like sometimes when I'm like figuring out that I'm in a dream, my subconscious will like put something to hurt me. And it's not like enough to like kill me or like hurt me badly, but it's enough to like stab me out of it. Like, for example, like I'll get a paper cut and I'll be like, oh, wow, I got a paper cut. And then I'll go tend to it and then I'll completely forget what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to like not overwrite it, but like remind myself that like I feel pain in a dream. Therefore, just because I feel pain doesn't mean I'm not in a dream because I always, despite feeling it, will just forget that I'm in a dream because I'm like, oh, that hurt. Clearly, I'm awake because that hurt.
Yeah.
And I feel like in every dream, I'll always get hurt, whether it's like a violent death or it's like I stub my toe really hard and I'm like pausing for a few minutes to be like, oh, ooh, that really hurt. And then I'll be like, oh, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, I was doing this thing. And then like completely forget.
Mm-hmm.
So I would
So,
love to know your now.
yeah, if I were you, then in waking life, let's say anytime I would stub my toe or get a paper cut, that's when you do a reality check and be like, oh, I hurt myself. Am I in a dream right now? So that then when you do hurt yourself within the dream, you kind of do a double check. Like if you start to get lucid and then all of a sudden you hurt yourself to forget, if you're constantly checking throughout the day when you hurt yourself, oh, am I in a dream? It's like you're like, haha, dream, I've got you because you'll get lucid for whatever reason it is. Something weird's happening, something's out of place, and then you'll get a paper cut to distract yourself. But then you'll go, oh, I hurt myself. Oh, am I in a dream? And you can kind of like flip it back on itself.
Mm. Well, that's good. I might have to try that then. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
Get the
never,
other
it's
hand.
never good. Like I never am like trying to purposely get lucid. It's always completely on accident. I've never
Yeah.
tried to get lucid on purpose.
I think the cool thing that you could do though is to try to get lucid, but have a question, a specific question that you want to know the answer to. So that you're like
Mm,
prepared for when you get lucid, because it could be that you don't have any reason that you want to get lucid. You're probably scared of being killed because every time you get lucid, you die some horrible death. But perhaps if you were to be like, dream lady, dream creator, like, I want to get to know you. I love you. Like, please talk to me. I want to hear what you have to say. She might hold back on the murder.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I feel like
me too.
now, like we can become friends. Um,
Yeah.
which I mean, I feel like we're friends. I just feel like she's like
Oh my gosh.
trying to. Oh, what?
Plot twist. Maybe she thinks that you're the parasite that's stealing her body.
That's real. I deserve it then. Yeah, I'll take it. Chop my head off. I deserve it. That's so real.
That's wild. All right, before we wrap it up, is there anything else that you wanted to share or like anything at all that I haven't asked you about that you would like to voice?
No, I don't think I do. I am curious because I shared a dream. did you have any recent dreams last night that maybe you want to share? I could hear.
Oh, let me just check. I do remember the one I had last night, but I don't want to share it. It's not
Exactly.
that bad. Maybe I could with okay, I will share it anyway. Okay. So my friend and I both got bitten by the same spider and we were coming up with welts
Hmm.
like all over our bodies. And I was showing my mom and I was so disgusted. And I was like, we need to go to the hospital. And she said, oh, nah, it's okay. Just keep an eye on it. Like it'll go down. It'll just take time. And the blisters really hurt when I sat down. It was all up my thighs and my back. But then my friend and I were like, oh, well, we'll just wait it out and hang out together. And we were doing, oh, well, at least we like hanging out and talking to each other.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, the like what I got from that, the spider bite is like there's been someone in my life that's been quite negative lately and hurtful and
Mhm.
feels a bit venomous and also hurt my friend in a different way. So I feel like, the dream was showing that we have that shared pain. But the guidance in the dream I'm taking from it is the line where my mum was saying like, it's okay, you don't need to go to the hospital because I was very much like, we need to go and get someone else to help us. And she was like, no, 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 it will just take time. Like just wait it out. So just lay low, like just have a good time with your friends. So yeah, it
Mhm.
was like kind of wise. That was painful too, though. Like I felt pain in that dream, so I understand what you're talking about. Okay.
When you have dreams, do you feel like some of them are giving you guidance or some of them are just exploring feelings that you had in waking life? So like you're like going to sleep and then the dream is just exploring more of those feelings.
I think it's both. I think that it definitely explores feelings and helps me to like release stored emotion as like a vessel to get them out of my body. But even in those dreams where I think, oh, this is just purely emotional processing, there's always guidance within them on how to help with that problem. Whether that be like a line that someone said, or a thought that I thought to myself within the dream, or a random, like you were saying earlier, the colors. Will often look up like color psychology and see what the colors represent and if there's any guidance in there on how I can deal with this issue. The people in my dreams that you may think are so random, I always think like, oh, well, how would I describe that person? What's their personality like? What are their traits? Could the way that they go about things be the answer as to how I could fix my problem? So I do believe that, dreams are there to help us process emotions and go through stuff. But from all of my experience, they've always got some tiny little thing in there that we often think, oh, that was just random and we brush it off. But that's the guidance to help you to deal with it. Like that dream I just shared, I could have just been like, oh, well, yeah, it's just, it was a spider bite, it was venomous, I get it. But I went through all the details and was like, my mum said something in there that part seemed important. So it just helped me to
Oh,
stress less about it. Yeah.
oh, nice. I was just wondering because I noticed that if I were to categorize my dreams, there are like some dreams that have like guidance and some dreams that are like vent dreams where it's like I bottle up my emotions. I know it's really bad. And then in my dreams, those emotions will like come out and it's just like
Mhm.
a place for them to like be free.
Mhm.
And those are the dreams where I'm like, oh, this is the storyline that's like really, really like good. So I was just
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They will definitely highlight like your complexes and help you to have like an area where you can swear and punch and hurt people without hurting them. But I bet you, like, if we looked through those dreams, that there'd be some detail in there that you may have missed, some
mm,
type of guidance. Yeah.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, what an incredible conversation. Hawa, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your culture, and your passion for dreams with us today. It's so refreshing to hear perspectives that don't always get the spotlight in mainstream dream discussions. And I know that Dream Hub's listeners are going to take so much from this. Now, guys, if you want to hear more from Hawa, make sure to check out her podcast. It's Just a Dream, where she brings her dreams to life through storytelling and deep analysis. They are amazing. And you can find her on Instagram as well at underscore It's Just a Dream podcast, but I'll put the links below. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. You have to come on my podcast now.
Oh yeah, I will. I'll get some dreams to share for you.
Yay.
And as always, to the listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Dream Hub podcast. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who loves exploring the depths of the dream world. And if you are someone with like a strong cultural dreaming background, hit me up. Like, let's start a conversation. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and remember, your dreams are speaking to you. Are you listening?